paper and the point you're trying to make. Without a carefully conceived thesis, an essay has no chance of success. It's just going to be a rambling, string of paragraphs, okay? So let's talk about literary analysis. Let's see. For our purposes, we want 500 to 750 words. Now, what is that to you guys? About a page. I mean, seriously, guys, we're not talking huge here. A page, maybe a page and a half, okay? If you've got a page and 3 lines, change your font size, narrow your margins, and put it all on one page, because we're all a bunch of old school dodos and we print it out to read it and mark on it and write on it and grade it, okay? So it's just a page to a page and a half, about 750 words. Objective of a literary analysis essay is to convince the reader that you have supported your developed idea. Your developed idea is basically your thesis statement. Has anyone read Antigone? Okay, good. So the fate of main character of Antigone illustrates the danger of excessive pride. That would be a thesis statement that you could write a 1 to 2 page essay on Antigone about. In A Worn Path, Eudora Welty, is anybody a Eudora Welty fan? Southern author? I really enjoy Eudora Welty. Creates a fictional character in Phoenix Jackson, whose determination, faith, and cunning illustrate the indomitable human spirit. Sorry, me and my vision, I'm telling you. In this Welty example, see those 3 adjectives right there? Determination, faith, and cunning. That gives us 3 topics to talk about during our thesis. So your thesis statement is going to be a thing that will give you a concept for each of your paragraphs. You need 2 to 3 supporting paragraphs, and that's about it. I mean, that's really about it. So, how's a thesis statement and a literary analysis developed? Step 1, your topic, okay? In our situation, I know you guys had Dr. Venati yesterday. What was your main take-home from his lecture to you yesterday?
How important the humanities are in medicine.
That's right. Because we can stand up here and lecture you like Professor Reggio's going to do when it comes to HIPAA. She's going to stand up here, she's going to lecture you about HIPAA, and you'll come out of here with this lofty idea of HIPAA. But then when you're standing in an elevator, a crowded elevator with your preceptor, and you start to say something about the patient you guys just saw, that's when the reality of HIPAA will click in, okay? So what we're doing for you is we're giving you these stories that provide examples, some good, some bad, of interactions in healthcare that, while you see it now, 5 years from now, you might be in a similar situation, and that example is going to come back to you. Does that make sense, guys? That's what we're trying to do here. We can stand up here and tell you all about medical ethics, professionalism, morality, all day long, but you're not going to remember it. But you might remember the story that you read that's relevant, okay? So your student manual that you'll find that we'll give to you, have you guys already been given that? Okay, so it'll introduce these topics, okay? Like WIT, the film that we're going to watch, is about other-centered care. It's about the ethics of research, professionalism, empathy, just medical ethics in general. So when you're reading your student manual and it's got these topics, if you're completely flabbergasted and blank as to where to go with any kind of a statement, those topics might kind of point you in the right direction, okay? You don't have to do that, and you certainly don't have to always write about the patient-provider relationship, okay? If you hear that, it's wrong, okay? The one thing that you need to take, the kernel of truth here that you really need to take to heart is, we're not judging your thesis. In no way are we grading your thesis. At the end here, we're going to talk about how we are grading this, okay? We just want to see you grow and develop, but we're not grading your thesis, okay? Does that make sense? The Spirit Catches You talks about cultural competence, humanism, communication, accountability, and altruism, okay? So those are from your student handbook that Dr. Venata and I have been rewriting and will be sent to you very soon. So how is a thesis statement in a literary analysis developed? Step two, you gotta have a question. You turn the topic into a question. Something that you could debate, something that is interesting, not sufficiently answered within the text of the writing, okay? So examples that you might get from The Spirit Catches You and You Fall Down. What knowledge of cultural differences are necessary to treat a patient of another culture? You know, so that'd be a great question that could be. Where's the boundary between personal and professional as it pertains to the provider? Okay? Does anybody else have any other examples of a question that you might come up with from The Spirit Catches You that might help you develop? Oh, I'm so sorry. My husband likes the Minions. Let me turn that on the side. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, sorry about that, I apologize. So does anybody have any example of a question that you could pull from The Spirit Catches You that might help you develop a thesis statement? Yeah?
Like, could it be as simple as, there's so many ways of curing and healing a human body, which one is actually real?
It sure could.
There's so many religions.
Is there any legitimacy in what we consider voodoo medicine? Yeah, that'd be a great one. That could help you develop a thesis. Yeah?
The cultural, so you have like your religious beliefs and you have your cultural beliefs, but in the United States, we read in the story that religion beats out culture, so the Christian Scientists didn't get prosecuted by the state, whereas they did.
Yeah, something like that could be really good. Yeah.
I think the question we could do kind of from a provider perspective would be like, when it concerns a child, at what point does what you think as a provider and what a child's parents think as parents, like at what point where is that
Exactly.
line? Like, how do
that
you
conflict, what to do, how do you handle a conflict between the provider?
and what you think is best?
That's right. But remember, it doesn't always have to be written from the provider's perspective. Okay? All right. Very good. Very good. I think you guys are kind of getting the hang of this. So, we got to answer that question. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to brainstorm. And you might, do this on a scrap of paper or a whiteboard or something, So the question we propose, some brainstorming answers, the differences in the culture, food differences, time differences, just the flat differences between the two cultures, American culture and the Hmong culture. Food differences, time concepts, acceptance of medicine, we just brainstorm a whole bunch of ideas there, okay? Now take a step back. Now you got your brainstorming there, right? And now it's time to take a step back and not even think about it consciously for a day or two, okay? And just let that kind of sit, okay? Now you come back to your brainstorming concept and you just trash all the stuff that's trash. Dump the redundancies, dump the way out of line stuff that doesn't fit, okay? And now you write the thesis statement from the answers that are left, okay? So, for example, the treating provider's refusal to recognize the cultural disregard of Western medicine by the Hmong people in The Spirit Catches You seriously compromised the care of Leah Lee. Okay, so that's a legitimate thesis statement that you could develop your paper on. This thesis statement would allow you to write a paragraph talking about the provider's refusal. You can talk about how the providers refuse to recognize the cultural differences, okay? And then you could talk about how that affected the care of Leah Lee. This would be an easy one to support in a short paper. So, but by the same token, assume your audience is smart and thoughtful, but at the same token, if no one would disagree with your thesis or think it is wrong and then throw it out, okay? Because in that, refusing to recognize the cultural differences, you know, somebody could argue that, but they were treating her appropriately, okay? But they were using evidence-based medicine to treat her. Okay, so there's an argument. There's got to be a little bit of an argument there, or else it's just, you know, it's basically a book review. Okay? Generally, in the structure of your thesis, your thesis statement will be the last sentence in your opening paragraph. Okay? A lot of your faculty graders, your faculty leaders will ask you to underline your thesis statement as you turn it in. I usually do. Dr. McNeil likes you to, and Dr. Britton does, so you know you can or cannot. What I usually do in my groups is we start by reading our thesis statements, so I hear what everybody is anyway. So generally, your introductory paragraph might give a little bit of background information, set up your thesis statement, and then your first paragraph ends with your thesis statement. So what we did was I actually taught this lecture to the faculty, okay, last year, and we actually did a brainstorming about how the spirit catches you and you fall down. And let me tell you something, you want to have fun, you should be in a brainstorming session with Dr. Venata and Dr. McNeil, because that was a whole lot of fun. You know, these guys are so smart, it just blows me away every time. So, how does time, this is the brainstorming, we decided to look at time. How does time impact healthcare with the Hmong, okay? So, missed appointments. They didn't have the same concept of time that we did, so they missed appointments. What did the missed appointments happen? Frustration of the providers. Also, a lot of providers have egos, in case you've never noticed that. And their egos can be pretty fragile, and they see somebody that misses an appointment as disrespectful. You know, that's something you got to be aware of in your back of your mind. They see the way the Hmongs treat it as a level of neglect. So that's why Child Protective Services intervene. Okay? Time, non-Cartesian, that was, whose word was that? Venata. But anyway, so lack of Western concept of cause and effect of time. Medical dosing, they were supposed to do something every 7 days. What, huh? Who keeps track of that? Hours between doses, these folks didn't have clocks. So then you go back and you dump. This is faculty style dumping. So you look at what's not important, the missed appointments, you know, yeah, so that's not really, you know, non-Cartesian, I hate that word anyway, so got rid of that one. And then you start putting together your thesis statement. So the lack of, where are we going with this? Okay, the lack of Western, okay. So then it kind of turned into this as we threw it around. The Hmong concept of time is so different from Western medicine that it led to missed appointments, dosing errors, and their misunderstanding of diagnosis and prognosis. So what we've got there is the basis of, that's our thesis statement right there. So missed appointments, one paragraph is going to talk about missed appointments, one paragraph is going to talk about the dosing errors, and one paragraph is going to talk about the misunderstanding the Hmong had of diagnosis and prognosis. Is this making sense so far? Any questions?
No.
So we edited our thesis statement. The Hmong concept of time conflicts with Western medicine's concept to the point of missed appointments, dosing errors, and a misunderstanding of the relationship between diagnosis and prognosis. We just made it sound a little, you know, more articulate and intelligent. So, okay, we've gone through that step. It's not complicated, it's not rocket science, it's not even clinical anatomy, okay? So, your introductory paragraph, the main components of your introductory paragraph, you need to capture your audience's attention. You might need to include a little background relevant to your thesis to kind of support it a little bit. You do need to include the title and the title of the work and the author's name so that it can be a freestanding document. Does that make sense? You might have some kind of provocative question to start it out. Maybe a startling statement, or maybe a brief anecdote that relates to the story but isn't in the story. Maybe something in your life that you might start with an anecdote of you having an encounter when you visited Tibet with your family when you were 12 years old and some misunderstanding there. Something like that. Something to capture the attention of the reader, okay? The body is the development of the central idea. You present the paragraph that supports your thesis statement. All of the paragraphs support your thesis statement. They contain an explanation of your ideas and evidence from the text. You can summarize, paraphrase, give specific details from the text, direct quotations, but guys, if you directly quote for 2/3 of your paper, it's probably not going to be a well-received paper. So, you might directly quote. Later on, we're going to read a story with a lot of symbolism specific to a character. You might directly quote a word the character uses, okay? Something like that. We don't need citations. You don't need, if you want to do footnotes at the end of it, I don't care. Personally, I don't even know how to make that happen in Word. I can do it on a typewriter, but not in Word. So, but if you want to do that, that's fine. You cite a page number. I don't care. But it's certainly not necessary, okay? Because you already gave the name of the work and the author's name in your introductory paragraph. So these developmental or supporting paragraphs should contain a topic sentence. Usually the first, you guys know paragraph structure. We learned this in, 5th grade? Usually the first sentence of the paragraph is the topic sentence. States one of the topics as it's got to be associated with your thesis, okay? So our topic, remember the thesis tells the reader what we're going to expect in the body of the work. So we're not going to have a paragraph that talks about something that hasn't even been mentioned so far, okay? It relates the details of the paragraph back to your thesis. And it ties your paragraphs all tie. You got to tie the details of your paragraph all together, okay? Any questions? You guys know you can interrupt me anytime. I'm the least formal person you've ever met. Okay. All right, your concluding paragraph, it gives your essay a sense of conclusion and completeness. It brings it to a close. It lets your reader know that you've come to an end. You might restate your thesis statement in a little bit different words. That's a pretty popular thing that I've seen in the conclusions. You can comment about the literature from a different perspective. Maybe if you happen to find that somebody else had, looked at this particular piece of literature that we're talking about. But the one thing that you never do is introduce a new topic in the conclusionary paragraph. Okay, does that make sense? So you're not writing something that suggests a sequel, like a new topic would, like Stranger Things. You definitely know there's a season 3 coming, right, guys? Okay, so the things to remember specifically about this thesis for this class. You don't need to retell the literature story in any way except to support the paragraphs in your thesis. We've all read the story. I swear to God, we've all read it now 3 times. Okay? We've all read it. Okay? Your role is to interpret the work. Okay? We want to see that you've read it and processed it and digested it and can think about it. Okay? The principal emphasis of your essay is to draw conclusions and develop arguments. We don't want a plot summary. If all you do is give me a Rotten Tomatoes review of the work, it's not going to bode well for your grade. And please, this is one of the very most important things, and this is just so functional, okay? We all the faculty share one printer, okay? We all sit in our office and we print crap. We don't always get up and go get it right away. So sometimes we'll go back there and there's 4 or 5 or 15 things on the printer, and we're trying to sort them out and find what we need. Please put a footer or a header on every page with your name and page number. Okay, that is super, super important. You guys all know how to do that in Word. Even I know how to do that in Word, guys. I know that you guys can do it, okay? We don't need a cover page. While we do print things, we're all very environmentally aware. I only print what I have to. I won't print cover pages. So if your name only appears on your cover page when I print your paper, guess what? I don't have a clue whose it is. So don't, make it easy on us and therefore easy on you. Okay, any questions about any of that? And that same thing, the footer, header thing is true too. When you get to where you're writing SP notes, you write anything you turn in means a footer or a header with your name and the page number on it. Okay, that goes for the soap notes on the SPs, that goes for everything. Okay, now that I've told you we're not actually grading you on the content of your thesis statement, you're probably wondering, well, then how the heck am I getting graded? Okay? We're looking at your grammar. I mean, punctuation, correct grammar, sentence structure, okay? You need to proofread. Yeah, go ahead.
Is there like a writing center that we can?
Oh, bless your heart, you're gonna be fine. I swear to God, if you got to this point in your education, you do not need a writing center. You're gonna be one of those students I'm gonna come to after your third paper and say, honey, we don't need to spend 12 hours on this.
Okay.
Okay, seriously. You guys, this is not a 12-hour project for God's sakes. This should not in no way interfere with your studying for any of your sciences and the main reason you're here. This is an aspect of why you're here, but we realize where the focus of your attention is and where it should be. And it should be kind of here, but maybe an hour, 2 hours worth of here, okay? Aside from the time it takes you to read it, okay? And a lot of these are just good, last thing before you go to sleep reading. I don't know if you guys are like me, I read. My husband is so happy I finally have downloaded the Kindle app on my phone so I don't have to have my night table light on, because I've read in bed for 33 years. I just read, so. I didn't during PA school because we didn't teach humanities like this. I would let myself read magazines only because they were short, but I couldn't read books. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. So, grammar, punctuation, a lot of your spell check, your grammar check will catch this, but not always. You do need to proofread. Once you've finished it, let it give it time to set for 2 or 3 hours and then proofread it with kind of fresh eyes. Organization, did you put everything together logically? Did it tie together? Was it good paragraph structure? Did your paragraphs make sense, or was it 14 different topics in one paragraph? Okay. Your thesis, this is as close as we get to judging your thesis. Was it clear and concise? Regardless of content, was it a clear and concise thesis? Okay? Your argument, did you support your thesis statement? Did you connect your topics? Okay? And then your conclusion, was your conclusion clear? Was your conclusion justified by the body of your paper? Okay, these are all things that we're looking for. So basically the grading rubric, and these will be graded in ExamSoft, and you'll get released your scores. The grading rubric is basically 1 to 5 on grammar. If it's perfect with no punctuation errors, and believe me, I can spot, okay, who went to the CAF yesterday? The CAF? Have you guys not found the CAF yet?
No.
Oh, girl, we have gotten Let me tell you about the CAF. It's the cafeteria on campus. It's over in the University Center. It is like amazing. I mean, you pay one price, you can eat anything that's in there, you can eat as much as you want. There's a dessert bar, there's an ice cream machine, there's milk and cereal, there's yogurt. I'm sorry, my family says yogurt. I'm sorry, it's just one of those things. So, and they've also got a hot food line and all of this. Well, there was a blackboard they put a blackboard in and they're trying to be more interactive with the students and get feedback from the students, and this question was on the blackboard. And they wanted students to write answers.
No.
See, now,
Does
would,
it
okay, would spell check catch this?
No.
Nope. So, I mean, I'm standing there and I'm getting my soda and I'm looking over there, I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? But then, and so the provost, Dr. Buchanan, remember you met that kind of stuffy looking guy the other day, right? That formal looking guy? I said, so, what do you think, Kent? Mojave or Sahara? And he just like, oh, rolled his eyes, you know, so, I mean, but that's the kind, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that will cost you points on your paper. Spell check would never catch this in 1,000 years, right? Okay, so, grammar, uses, organization, thesis development, thesis argument, and conclusion. Also, use your, use your words wisely. Don't use the thesaurus that you have in your head that doesn't align with Roget's, because I use Roget's, okay? So, because that's a big thing, wrong word, okay? It sounds good, but if it's not the right word, it's gonna count off. So basically, each one of those 5 points counts for 1 to 5, okay? And that's half of your humanities grade, okay? The other part of your humanities grade is your participation. When you go to the faculty's meeting, some of the faculty might meet somewhere on campus, some might meet at a coffee shop, some might meet at McNally's, Bassler Hall, so you don't know. But the participation in the discussion is part of your grade. Do you have to be asked and drawn out? Do you volunteer? Okay, so you get 25 points for your paper, 25 points for your participation, okay? And the participation is all subjective based on your faculty grader. Okay, now that doesn't mean you want to monopolize the discussion, but we don't want to have to ask you 3 times to participate. You're going to only get, you're not going to get full points on the participation aspect, okay? So, I know Dr. Britton said 84.5 was considered passing, and in the back of your head you immediately thought, oh my God, this is higher stakes. No, people. The average grade in humanities last year was 96. So, I mean, we're not judging. We want you to digest this and think about it. There's so much out there. You guys, right now, you've committed to being lifelong learners, okay? But you gotta learn something besides medicine, right? So lifelong commitment to self-edification and improving yourself. Does that make sense? Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I tried to find a stupid cartoon, because I like stupid cartoons, to put at the end of this, and they were all way too stupid. And they were all people worried about writing their master's thesis. That's what I did, by the way, when I was in OU, we wrote a master's thesis. And that was, we had 1 week off in because remember the OU program, we started in July and started our clinical rotations after 15 months of didactic. So in about March of our didactic phase, after we'd been in about 9 months or so, we had a week's vacation and we wrote our master's thesis. Now, if you were an idiot, you started it at the first day of your week's vacation. If you weren't an idiot, you'd already been working on it since probably Thanksgiving. And that was like, it was pretty intense. That was really intense. I was really glad that that wasn't something that we're doing here. For me in my education, it helped. I mean, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot, but it's never really helped me in my practice at all. I wrote my master's thesis about Werner Hoffman's disease, which is spinal muscle atrophy type 1. And it was selected. I got to present it at the OAPA. I was a student presenter, so that was kind of a cool thing to put on my CV. So this aspect of humanities is something that you're going to take with you and hopefully a long ways down the road. And hopefully this will encourage you to continue reading medical type fiction. You know, the med school over at OU publishes a journal every year with medical fiction that the doctors have written and other healthcare providers have written. So it's not, this isn't like a thing from Mars that we're doing here. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Okay, well, if you do have questions about humanities, just email me, stop by my office. If I'm not in the classroom or in the campus health clinic, which we all work over there some, I'm either in my office or the conference room, so I'm easy to find. I'm here every day, I'm here early, I'm here before your classes, so feel free to stop by if you have any questions. So basically what the structure of this is going to look like when we have not sat down and put together the time frame for all the 9 humanities projects throughout the didactic phase. But we will, okay? They will be presented to you. I'll email you guys a schedule with the dates. It'll be on your Outlook calendar. Everybody's using their Outlook calendar, okay? Everybody's checking your email. Has everybody got your email on your phone? Okay, because you need to be checking that email on a very regular basis because things can be very timely on there. So you're going to get our schedule, you're going to get your groups, you're going to get your faculty rotation assignments so you'll know where you're going when. On D2L, within each course, I'll create a humanities module. I'll put the reading on there. I will put the schedule, I'll put all of this stuff on there again for you, but I will send it to you already, okay? That said, when is the next thing due? You know, so I don't know the date right off the top of my head, but I know that it's not the day after tomorrow. I know that some of you have already spoken with your mentors or whatnot, and you might have a paper written or sketched out or something. I would highly suggest that you go back and reread your paper with an eye towards this lecture that we've just done and see if you think it's still appropriate or if it needs to be modified or probably shortened. Okay? All right? So, any questions at all? Okay. I guess you guys have got about a 15-minute break before Professor Reggio gets started with the all-thrilling HIPAA. You'll do HIPAA every year for the rest of your stinking life.
Yeah.
Seriously. Every time you change jobs, every time you go on a rotation, they'll make you do their own HIPAA. Most of them, some of them, a lot of them. So it's just something you get used to. All right, guys. Thank you for your time.